Welcome to Flash from Scratch, Tutorial 26, Buttons. This tutorial we're going to make what's called the button. Button is something you click on to make an event happen or to open up something. I have one made already just to give you some idea what we're going to do. We'll just test it. Buttons have different states. There's the steady state, the up state. There's nothing happening, there's nothing over it. When I bring the cursor over top of it, that's the second state. You see that? That's what's called a rollover. And you definitely can tell I rolled over it. See that little finger? And it doesn't appear till there because that's my hit area in here also. And when I click on it, it changes. So we're going to see how to make them different types of buttons. We're also going to see how to turn your name into a button. See that little finger? It says it's a button, so you click and have something happen. So let's make the buttons. I'm going to use my oval tool. You can use any shape you want, but I'm going with the oval tool. Holding my shift down so I make a nice circle. Making sure I got it highlighted. Up to modify, convert to a symbol. Again, it says convert, but it means make a symbol. This time make sure button is selected. We used graphics before in previous tutorials. Now we're doing with the buttons. Make sure buttons is selected. And I'm going to call this button button 1 and underscore btn. When I look at this in my library underscore btn, or I'm writing code on it, I'll know I'm actually talking about a button because it may not have the name button. It could be start, go, up, down, anything. Pressing OK, and if I look in my library, there's my button. It shows a little button with a finger pushing it, and that's the button right there. That's it. And that's the actual button I made. This is just an instance of my button. If I open the properties panel, it says instance of button 1, and you can get, if you're writing code on this, when you learn ActionScript, you'll be given this a name that you can write code on. And because it's an instance of this button, you could draw as many of these buttons on the stage as you want and give them different instance names and do different things with them. That's the power of the instance. So I'm going to get rid of some of these. There. So there's my button. And if I double click on it to get inside of it, I could do it that way. Control Z to go back. Go back to scene 1. Or I can go open my library and double click on it. Either way, I end up inside of my button. But I prefer to come from scene 1 by just double clicking here. And now I'm inside button 1, and it has a timeline, as does scene 1, but you see it's different. It has these 4 states. The up state is what the button looks like when it's in its just standing there. The over state is what happens when your cursor comes over it, and the down state is what happens when I click on my button, and there's a hit state that says this is the actual area of the button that we're hitting. So right now we made that a button, and let's just test our movie. And there's a button. Well, you know, when you go on the internet or you're searching for something and you're on a site and you move your cursor around, all of a sudden you see that little finger. That finger says, hey, push me. That's what that means. It's a button. And you can see it takes the whole, encompasses that whole image. And that could be a square, could be a drawing, could be anything you want that you're calling a button. And that's the up state. That's what it looks like. The over state, that's when we go over it. So let's right click, insert a keyframe here. And let's take and insert a keyframe here. And let's insert a keyframe here. So we have keyframes all through each of our buttons. So let's go to the over state, and I'm going to have it that when I put my mouse over, instead of just seeing that little finger, I want this to change. So I want it to do two things. I want it to get a little bit smaller in one way, and I want it to change colors. So the first thing I'm going to do is pick up my oval tool again, which I have. I'm going to pick a brighter color so it's really exaggerated, and I'm going to make a circle holding my shift down, and there's a circle, and I'm just eyeing it and making sure that it's a little bit smaller than that. I don't want this trace. I could have had no stroke here. I don't want this stroke, so I'm just going to click on that stroke and delete it. And when I did, I went inside that object. See this? So I'm going to click back to my button. Now I'm going to take this and drag it down until I got that circle, and I'm just eyeballing it to the center. So now let's test this out. Test the movie. We don't see that crazy green because that's the up state. The over state is when I go over it, it turns to that crazy green. Look at that. Okay, and let's also have something else take place. Let's select it all, pick up a free transform tool, and we're going to make it just a slight bit smaller. Okay, make it a little bit smaller. Now see, it moved off centered. So click here on the onion skin, and I can see the frame here is back there. Now I can use my arrow keys and get that closer to being in the center. So now let's test this again. Oh, let's close the onion skin. Now it's going to turn colors and shrink, which is pretty interesting. So you definitely know you're on something. Okay, and now let's do something for the down state. There's my original. When I did my keyframe, I brought this original line up. There it is there. That's why I did them all, because otherwise if I would have done it after this, I would have brought all this up into here, and I didn't want that. And let's just make this go back to the same size, but let's change the color. So let's click on the fill, and I don't know if I can just change it here or not. Let's change it to a blue. There we go. So let's just once more with that, see what that looks like. I zoom around, I go over it, there's my rollover, and when I click it, it gets big. So you definitely know you're on it, and you definitely know you click it. See that? And finally, the hit state. Well, the hit state is what part of this do you actually want action to take place. And normally we'd like to go right to the center, the central part of the button. So let's just pick up our free transform tool, and with my shift on, let's make this small. Doesn't matter what color it is because we're not going to end up seeing it. Let's put that onion skin back on and use my arrow keys again. Put that in the center. So now when we test this movie, it's not going to, little finger's not going to appear till we get inside here. And we won't be able to click it till we're inside here. Turn the onion skin off. You see the onion skin's on. There it is there. See that? Tells me I'm capturing all these frames and I can see them all at once. Okay, test this movie. There's the rollover. See, it doesn't happen until I get way inside. Look. Way in there. I can click here, nothing happens till I get here, and that is working. Well, let's say you wanted a different hit. We'll just make it different. We'll make it long, and we'll make it very skinny. And again, I'm going to put the onion skin just so I can see where it is. I'm using my arrow keys. So now, even if I'm out here, outside of the button that you see, it'll still click it. Turn the onion skin off. Test the movie. Now we know it's going to be in the middle. Not yet, not yet. Right here. We know that. But it's also here. Okay. And one more thing. Let's just pick that with the selection tool. We could even put it up here. let's test this movie. And just above it, there it is there, look. So it's not even on it. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but maybe you'd want some indication that you're getting close to something. Alright. Let's bring that back down where we had it. Let's bring that back down. And let's take the onion skin off. Take this, highlight these frames, right click, clear frames. Now it looks like we have nothing, and when we go to our test our movie, there's nothing there, but right there is that button. If you want an invisible button, there it is, and you could have that when you click, something takes place and not see it. Now what would be a good thing for that is to, let's delete this for a minute. Let's pick up the rectangle tool and let's make a long piece in here. There it is there. Now let's go back to scene 1, and it's blue. That's telling me this is the button. It doesn't get seen, we know that. So let's lock this layer. We know about layers. Call this button. Call this button. Let's insert a layer. Call that name. And pick up our text tool. We'll leave the purplish text. And right here, I want a smaller font than that. Verdana is what I have. It's just a smaller font. That's about the size I want. And SKIP, skip. SKIP, skip. Skip, there we go. It can be anything here you want. And if I put that here on top of the button, now when I test my movie, it looks like my name became a button. And I could click that and something could take place. That's good for now. I hope you learned something from this tutorial, and I hope you use what you learned.